Hello everyone, let's begin the second half of Road to Super Bowl 2024 season number 2 NFL preview of every single team that NFL has to offer. We already done 16 episodes, this is episode 17, so we are starting that second half and we start with the first team in this preview that I would say that they can kind of have their lunch as well as eat their cake too. What does it mean? I think because they have Joe Burrow, they can be a team that, while they are clearly in their Super Bowl window with Joe Burrow, they can approach this trying to be really good while taking care of the future. I really think that's only a possibility for 4 teams in NFL. Bengals, Ravens, Bills and Chiefs. And it's because who they have as a QB. With that being said, it's actually a very important part that has an impact on how I drafted their grade. So let's start, shall we? And we start looking at the draft. And it starts with Amarius Mims, who I think is absolutely perfect for what I've just said. Because will he get to play significant snaps year one? If there is no injury towards 2 starting tackles, he won't. But it's absolutely freaking okay. Because both Orlando Brown and Trent Brown are here. They will be great mentors. They have a similar body type. They are huge, just as Amarius Mims. So they should be able to teach him how to play as such a huge guy, to gain a leverage in terms of NFL, how to prevent certain moves from edge guys. And he should absolutely step into position over Trent Brown next season because he's here for 1 year. And if Amarius Mims is what they believe they are drafting and what I believe they are drafting, he will just replace Trent Brown for next year and for a significant part of their future. So absolutely love this pick. Fit for the system, fit for the style. There's clear path of him going on the field. So what is there not to like? With Chris Jenkins, it's similar, though I don't necessarily say that he is like the biggest fit. Like he fits here, but with Amarius it's just way too obvious that this is the tackle Bengals are looking for. And I would say there's also clear path for him to be their starting defensive tackle like 2 years from now. Like I said, when we are talking about the Bengals and their ability to think about the future, what I like is this approach allows them to have really nice team as of right now because they are really good. And they kind of, with these draft picks, it's really hard to find a player that would be in their starting lineup because their starting lineup is really good. But it allows them to fill their depth with those young players. Some of them will be hits, some of them won't, obviously, as it happens. But with this management, they are very well equipped to pick quite nicely. And they have clear path for almost every single one of these guys, how they could get on the field. And for them to each and every single year kind of let go some of the veterans, some of the, let's say, higher paid players and have their replacement ready so they can keep afloat their current Super Bowl window as well as 1 year from now, 2 years from now, etc. So Chris Jenkins, like this pick, it's not spectacular, but it's really a guy that should be help for this defensive line that kind of got weaker in terms of offseason when they lost DJ Reader in one of the moves that I just don't understand. When they lost DJ Reader and they gave Sheldon Rankins similar type of money, though I think DJ Reader is just so much better than him, so weird, but other than that, I actually really like what they did in the offseason. Then you go with Burton, and this is a player that if he was drafted 80 overall and whoever else had this pick, I would probably grade it out less favorably towards Burton. Why so? Sometimes I talk about injury concern for the players. Most of the time I talk about fits, about what my draft grades were for these guys. And rarely I think I'm talking about like off-field issues. And Burton had several of them. Why I don't talk about it? Well, first of all, in the world of social media right now, I'm a bit of a skeptical about the quality of information that actually comes up about this player from media. And I would say the teams should usually be better informed than I am or than anyone else, because they most likely have a friend of a friend in the building of this guy's team that actually had some interaction with a player. It's not like, I've seen him in this video clip or I've heard it from someone that I really don't know. So I really rarely talk about this, but with Jermaine Burton, it's something that seems legit, that he has off-field issues, but it would matter much more for a different team than Bengals are. Especially if you were talking about some teams that are kind of in a rebuild, where you want to establish a good culture, when you have like first-year head coaches, that would matter. I'm not saying it won't matter here, but I think that Bengals are very well equipped with Joe Burrow, with Zach Taylor, to handle this type of, let's say, problematic player. And the upside you get from Jermaine Burton is, if things go really well, you can see that he is a potential number 2 wide receiver as early as the season. I think after this year they will know, is his mind ready and is he actually really good? If he is, they have a way how to let go T. Higgins, because it's super hard and I think kind of detrimental to your team ambition to pay your QB top money, your wide receiver number 1 in Jamar Chase top money, and as well as your wide receiver number 2 in T. Higgins. Like, I just don't see how you build a roster from that. I think that that's where you need to go and find cheaper alternative, and Jermaine Burton has a potential to be that for the Bengals. So, and it's like not their only throw of a dart for this type of upside with wide receiver. I think they clearly want to throw like several darts in terms of wide receiver position to figure out if there is a way in that they let go of T. Higgins and you don't feel like they are losing super much. Like, you obviously will be losing one of the best, or even probably the best wide receiver number 2 if he goes after the season, but it seems inevitable. It seems like you cannot afford to pay him, Joe, and Jamar. And if Joe Burrow is who he is, and I kind of believe that he is that elite star player that can lead you to the Super Bowl, he needs to show it without several elite pieces in terms of his wide receivers. So I like this fit, I like this pick, and let's move on towards others. Eric Hall, McKinley Jackson, 2 picks I'm not super comfortable with. I kind of do understand their the specifics behind these picks, that they kind of went for this, because Eric Hall, he is a tight end with biggest upside that they have on this roster, even like by far. Like, he can be, in theory, top 10 tight end in the league. The problem is there are massive injury concerns for him. So he's kind of like, well, 90% we won't get pretty much anything from him, or let's say 70% nothing from him. 20% he's gonna be like a valuable number 2 tight end in the league. Like, he will realize some of his potential, but the injuries will inevitably slow him down. And then 10%, like, he will reach that upside that is there, and we found an absolute gem in the 4th round. So I do understand that you have, I would say, flexibility to do this, but this is too early for how much the percentages are skewed towards him, towards not really getting anything from him, because it's by far, in my opinion, the most likely outcome. With McKinley Jackson, the reason I think they took him is he is projected on, like, he is supposed to be one of the really true nose tackles, the type of dudes that you just plug into your defensive line and they will let's say who is the best on that, like true nose tackle. I would say Vitava. So they are like kind of, in Czech Republic we say špunt. It's something you put into bathtub so the water cannot flood away. I'm not sure about the translation of this, but you understand. I believe you understand. So he's just to stop the run, and that's all he should be able to do. But still, that's very specific role for a guy that doesn't necessarily is a sure thing, and his upside, I would say, is not absolutely not close to Vitava. So if you get a decent starter out of him in a long term, you can, I would say, consider this a good pick. Though there is some way that he needs to develop into that, and I'm not feeling necessarily that this was value with as high as number 97. But I don't necessarily hate this pick. I see some reason behind it. And then they went with Josh Newton. He should fit in this cornerback room quite nicely, though his path to playing is again probably more about that year 3. And then the approach that they've made for the rest of these picks is kind of similar and very easy. So they were like, yeah, who is the highest graded player on the board? And they kind of had their pick from their top 5, because all of these guys feels like they should have been drafted a round or 2 earlier, and they're just taking flyers on them. So something that I just don't understand why more teams just don't do with their late round picks. Like, drafting for needs at this point feels weird, because if it's really a need, you should probably spend premium or at least 4th round on it. If it's not a need, why are you just not going for the best players available? So that's the case for Tanner McLachlan, Cedric Johnson, Dijon Anthony, and Matt Lee. Let's move to the offensive side of the ball for the Bengals. And this is going to be interesting because they've lost their offensive coordinator in Brian Callahan. And in a way, this would probably be one where I would be struggling, who I would be grading here. Because you hear me say that I do always grade a coach, whether it's head coach or a coordinator, that I feel like has the most impact over that side of the ball. And between Brian Callahan and Zach Taylor, this would be probably the closest to I don't know. Because from the outside, it kind of looks like it's Zach Taylor, though from things I've read, things I've heard, it's much more like they've run with Zach Taylor's system and that it didn't necessarily work to the best ability. They reverted, and most of their success came after they went on and implemented more of what Brian Callahan wanted to do with his offense, and that's also why he actually got the job with the Titans. So I'm not sure who I'll be grading if that was the case. As of right now, this is Zach Taylor. I think he's good. I don't think he's special. That's kind of how I feel about him. I think he's as well, he's probably a better head coach than he is necessarily like a offensive mind, because I really think that he is a great leader in terms of being innovative, putting this offense to the greatest position. I think they will. I lean more towards the side that it was more about Brian Callahan, and as well, it helps that when you have Joe Burrow, of course. So what does Zach Taylor has to work with? Yeah, it's Joe. Fortunately, it's not a sleepy Joe. Too early for this joke? Too early? I hope nothing happened to Joe Biden. I'm just meaning that he kind of fell from the campaign. So if anything happened to him, that was not intended to strive for that. Joe Burrow, some people say he's not elite, and I would say there is just one thing that can justify in my mind this opinion, and that's his unavailability. As of right now, he finished just 2 or 3 seasons fully in terms of his NFL career. So that's a concern, right? And to that, I actually cannot say anything. I think it's a legit concern. But when he's on the field, he is that top 5 guy. He is a great leader, he is an exceptional player, and I think there is a Super Bowl in his future. Well, in his absence, it seems like the Bengals found very nice backup option for him, because Jay Browning is Joe Burrow, like 60% of Joe Burrow. They don't need to switch what they are doing offensively. Jake Browning will be able to execute the same offensive schemes as Joe Burrow, just tune it out like five or six tiers. But for what he was last year, he was a pretty good QB and like almost a guy worth a shot. Of course, it helps when you have incredible weapons. So, do I rank him as a top 32 QB in the league? No. But about that 40 to 45, which is something that I would definitely not expect, like heading into last year. I'm not sure if he would crack my top 100, like heading into last season. So, really good play, and given that it was several games, it's not just one fluky or two fluky start. I think Bengals are really set up for this to work in the future as well, because you really want to have a backup that's going to do the same as your main guy, just tune it down several thousand% in a way. Now let's check this running back room, and it is really nothing special, one of the worst in the league. Kind of the saving grace for them to not be ranked like lower than D is that with both Zach Moss and Chase Brown, I'm really close to putting them into next year. You might argue that Chase Brown would deserve it, but I just don't have a sample size on him, so I do expect him to get a better grade like very soon. Zach Moss, he gets the job done. I'm kind of flirting between like the decent starter to good starter type of grade. I think it's really like 55 to 45, where he looks like a good starter, where he looks like a decent starter. So that room is not complete trash, but it's nothing that gets you excited. Also, the fact that Joe Burrow kind of adds to your running ability saves this room to be graded worse than a D. But definitely a concern for this team. And from Joe Mixon towards this is a legit downgrade that they've done this offseason. Now let's switch towards much better part of these guys, and that's Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. I think Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are the only duo that can be compared to these two. And I would give obviously Tyreek an edge over Ja'Marr, and I would give an edge for T over Jalen Waddle. So really exceptional duo. And I don't know what is that to say. Like, the only thing that you might have against these two guys, like T. Higgins didn't necessarily have a good season last year. Some of the drop issues, but still he played in really good level, considering that he was getting thrown balls from Jake Browning more than he would definitely anticipated. But the only negative thing I can say about this guy is that we don't know what Joe Burrow would look like without them, right? That's kind of like the only negative, that they're almost too good for us to, let's say, fairly judge Joe Burrow. Because can he do what Pat Mahomes does and take really shitty wide receivers and win a Super Bowl with them? Like, obviously, Patrick kind of has Travis Kelce. That helps a lot. He has really incredible O-line. That again helps a lot. So I think you can say this about all of these guys. They have something that allows them to be special. I would say Josh Allen kind of has the least amount of help from those 4 top tier guys. That's why I would rank him just behind Patrick Mahomes as my number 2 quarterback. If you really force me, I would go Patrick, Josh, Lamar, and Joe. But if that's your only negative about 2 players, that they are too good, that maybe you are missing that 3% of a picture for Joe Burrow, that you would have like a complete picture for him to be certain that he is the daddy guy, that's a good worry for you to have. And then, like I said, The problem is they will want to get paid, and I think they will pay Jamar Chase, and I feel they will try to get something back for T. Higgins. I don't think they will keep him for a long time. And good for them, they have Andre Silvas and Jermaine Burton as the most likely successors to T. Higgins. As of right now, none of those guys make me super excited, but the potential is there. With Trenton Irwin and Charlie Jones, you have decent enough backups that this room has depth, has obviously this excellent quality on top, and you kind of hope that between Silvas and Jermaine Burton you get two nice pairs of number 3 wide receivers and even perhaps something more. So one of the best groups out there from top to bottom. Obviously the top is like here, the bottom is kind of shaky, but when the top is super nice, you are okay with that. Fifth tight ends. This is room that again won't make you excited. If there's anyone, but okay, it's not like there's actually two players that I think are worth mentioning, because Darren Hudson really, as the year kind of went on last year, he actually looked very good, but it was with Jake Browning. So will he develop a chemistry with Joe Burrow? I mean, I would expect that, but we don't have a sample size of Joe Burrow and Hudson connection. So that's what kind of missing for me to put him as a decent starter, because I'm not sure how it's going to work with Joe Burrow. Like, the expectation it should, but we don't know. And then Mike Gesicki is another really interesting part, because a couple years ago, let's say 3 years ago, he was considered as that young up and coming, really potential top 10 tight end in the league. And then he kind of went to Miami, then he went to Patriots, and just didn't seem like a fit at all. But here, could he perhaps use 10 times better quarterback play? Because he is not your blocking tight end. He is not good in that blocking type of thing. But he can definitely get open. He can do some things post-catch. So take a good look at him, and don't be surprised if he emerges as some sort of 500-600 receiving yard type of tight end this season. And I think if there is a place for him to rejuvenate his career, he chose wisely. So as of right now, this doesn't look like a good group. Also, I'm sorry for Drew Sample and Mike Gesicki being wrongly accused of being offensive guards. For Mike Gesicki, if that was the case, he would have great, you wish to be a solid backup or something like that, because that would be, I mean, I would probably watch that, but it would be mean. Like I said, he's not even good as a blocking tight end, nevertheless, if he was supposed to be a guard. Sorry for that, they obviously are tight ends. But let's move towards the offensive line and how this group looks like and how it compares to the rest of the league. We start with tackles, and like I said, they have their body types. 3 massive dudes here. It's kind of similar to what Rams have in terms of the interior. That's what Browns have on their tackles. So it's clear what they want to do. They want those huge men to kind of allow for a pocket to be created. They can get beat by a speed, but with Joe Burrow and his pocket presence, he can move, he can step in that pocket, and if the interior, the first 3 steps of that pocket are clear, he can get rid of the ball before the guy actually goes around this big this big man, even with his speed. And Amarius Mims, I think, fits right into this, and he is a natural successor to Trent Brown. If by any chance he doesn't look good, I think that Trent Brown, and as a veteran, would agree to another 1 year, 6-7 million type of deal that Bengals can definitely live with. So for what it's worth, this room is set up for the future quite nicely. with one slight problem that they overpaid Orlando Brown. He, to me, is worth like $5 million less that he's getting every single year. But if you are Bengals, if you are drafting really well, if you are developing quite nicely, you can live with some of the contracts actually not working to the best in terms of value. In terms of interior, Cordell Wilson actually played quite a nice year. He was definitely coming as the biggest question mark for this offensive line, and he was good. Like, did he earn decent starter from me? No, but he definitely moved from like close to solid backup to really close to being a decent starter. And I think it helps when you are the solely, let's say, weak link of the line and you have really good play next to you. So this is a good area for him to develop, and for what it's worth, he's done that. So they should continue using him. And with Ted Karras and Alex Kappa, you are getting a pair of good, experienced starters that won't be anything that you are like super excited about, but will just give you week in, week out the play that you need for them. So they kind of have 4 guys that are bringing good quality towards this O-line with Cordell Wilson. The amount of quality next to him can erase some of the flaws that he has. So overall, this is really good O-line that allows you to do what you want, but it's not something special, as you can see. It's C+. It's slightly above average, I would say, in terms of the league. And it's constructed to a degree that we don't need superstars. Perhaps we will get the one in Emeritus Mims eventually, but it's most likely just don't be bad in any certain position, and they definitely are not. In terms of depth, there might be a bit of an issue. They do not necessarily have anyone in terms of interior guys that I would be super comfortable, like Jackson Kirkland, Trey Hill, Cody Ford, Nate Gilman, Matt Lee, whom they drafted, could be potentially like their best like long-term possibility for this group. So yeah, there is a reason to worry if one of these interior guys go down. Could they try to make one of those tackles play interior? They could try. Would it work? I'm not really sure. So they are not set to like sustain, let's say, 2 injuries for the interior of this line. Would be disastrous for this team. So let's hope this doesn't happen. Now let's move to defensive side of the ball, and that's where you have Lou Anarumo. One of the best strictly defensive coordinators that you have in league, because most of those really truly elite ones are obviously getting a head coaching job. So for Lou Anarumo, is it a question when? Probably. I think he deserves a shot. He is one of the guys that should be in next January on job interviews. Hopefully that's what's going to happen when they are on deep round in the playoffs. And it's not like he doesn't have a lot to work with, so let's find out what it is, right? In terms of defensive line, I am higher on these guys than their grades are actually saying. So if you find out that like a B that I have for this group, including linebackers as a whole, seems too rich, it's mostly about, I think for almost every single one of the guys here, I'm really close to like putting them up, Like Trey Hendrickson, could he be really like a low tier elite starter for me? Yes. Sam Hubbard, good starter? Yes. Miles Murphy, decent starter? Yes. So you see where I'm heading. There's several guys that I just really need 2-3 more weeks to see that they are what I think they are, to move them up. So that's why I want to give you some more clarity that, if you just went by grades, you would definitely find the plus linebackers room that I've graded better than these guys. They are worse than these guys, but okay. I would have graded better in terms of grades for their players, but I would graded them worse in terms of the line as a whole. So this would be a reason why. Miles Murphy, their last year first round pick, he kind of has clear room to continue his development, to develop opposite side of Trey Hendrickson, kind of fight it out with Sam Hubbard. I do expect them to split reps more 50-50, perhaps something like 600, 450, 650, depending on how will Miles Murphy progress, whether it's going to be favorable to Miles or to Sam. In Trey Hendrickson, you have one of those guys that are super close to that Josh Allen tier, guys that just made it to elite starters for me. With Trey Hendrickson is really close. I think there's quarter of a tier that just made the difference here between him and a guy like Josh Allen. That looks much bigger when you put them into tiers. So in terms of edge, they have their true number one guy in Trey Hendrickson. They have ideally your pieces 2.5 in Sam Hubbard and 3 in Miles Murphy. They have depth in Cam Sample and Joseph Osai. So you are set to have nice edge, not necessarily something that is your huge strength, but definitely a group that should get the work done and then some, Though Cam Sample is, as of right now, on injury reserve. But you have depth, you have quality. I think this is, again, very well constructed room. Let's move to interior, and I already said that I don't kind of like the exchange of Shadle rankings to DJ Reader. It seems like they are going for more, we don't mind you to be worse, but we count that you would be available for us, which in DJ Reader's case is not a certainty. He is struggling with some injury issues. So, but still, I think it's exchange I would have not done. And definitely from close to an elite player that DJ Reader, I think, at his prime was. As of right now, I just think that he's just amazing. You are losing a bit of quality here. Chris Jenkins, BJ Hill, Zach Carter. Again, what you are getting here is two quite nice starters in BJ Hill and Shadle rankings with quite a nice depth in Zach Carter and Chris Jenkins. So, from what it's worth, another room that absolutely makes sense. You lost a bit of that stardom, but for BJ Hill, I think he is your best guy here and a player that is really closing on that important starter. Great for me and will be sort of a replacement for DJ Reader in terms of him being that piece that defenses will need to account for. You've lost a lot in terms of run defense because that was really what DJ Reader is exceptional at. So that's where, when I'm ranking this group, run defense is definitely where they are ranked less favorably than in terms of their pass rush, because their pass rush, especially with Trey Hendrickson, is really very good. Now let's move towards linebackers, and we get to a position that, it's a team for defensive line and linebackers for this team that I would say 5 or 6 players here are graded super close for me to just put them into a next tier, and that's the case for both Jeremy Pratt and Logan Wilson. I just could not make myself make them important starters, but it's, like I said, it's just, so you can count them as half important starters, half good starters, and one of those linebackers duo that elevate this team. They are reliable, they are really well equipped to play together, they don't necessarily have any weaknesses, they are just not exceptional in anything. Like, they are really, really good in every part of the game that is important for linebackers. That's also good because if you lose one of them, it's not like you are necessarily, counting on him being the guy that really helps with run defense or the guy that's providing the coverage, because they are both very similar types of players. So if one of them goes down, and it's not necessary that they have an interesting depth like Davis Gatter, Marcus Bailey, Joe Pesci, really nothing to write home about, but in any case, you should have a guy that's well-rounded and very well equipped to do enough that even with a bad second piece, you should not be worried about this room. So one of those rooms that is truly an impact for a team despite not having an elite linebacker with them. Let's move down towards secondary, and we start with safety position. And both safeties and cornerbacks, oh guys, man, I think is an asset towards this team. And you might be like, well, they are just a good starter, a decent starter. Well, did I tell you guys about like close? No. What I think you have here for your secondary is how to put it so it's absolutely clear. So you have Jordan Battle, who when he played last year as a rookie, he looked exceptional. So his play last year was as high as important starter. I just have 500 snaps on him. If he continues to that, he will climb super fast towards an important starter level. As of right now, I also think like he is really close to being a good starter. And then you have Geno Stone and Von Bell, both veterans that are absolutely like rock solid. They will not give you anything like super exciting, but they will be good. They will be really good. And what this means for this whole safety room is there is no weakness. They provide you with a ton of upside in terms of Jordan Battle. And with Von Bell, he's kind of coming back towards a situation where he was the most successful. So by grades, it doesn't look like a B type of room, but I do count here on familiarity and just no problem. Like when this room just gives you really zero reason to be worried about. They should be like bulletproof to injuries. They should provide you with really good play week in, week out. And all of them are, like I said, really close to being towards that better part of their tier. Not necessarily like ready to jump in, but not an average good starters in Geno Stone and Von Bell. And with Jordan Battle, like he is really close. Like if I put good starter next to him, I could definitely have done that because he confirmed it with his last season performance. That's what creates for me a B type of safety room. Now let's move towards cornerbacks that I also rank as as a B. Also, you have to count for Dex Hill, who played here last year. He was not necessarily good. He didn't make a progress that was expected of him. That's why they kind of went and signed two veterans next to Jordan Battle. But as your safety number 4, he is probably the best safety number 4 in a league. Towards a cornerback room, and very well orchestrated one. So they've lost Chidobe Awuzie, who did not really play that well last season. And they could have afforded because Cam Taylor-Britt stepped in and showed himself up for the challenge. Like, he's out there to be your number 1 in the future. Okay, he's going to be your outside number 1 corner as of right now, but in the future, he's definitely projected to be number 1 that you are really counting on. As of right now, he's number 1 that you are not worried about. With DJ Turner, he played a ton as a rookie. He was good enough. It's not necessarily it was without like hiccups. But as your number 2 guy, it makes sense. He's not someone I am super worried about. You know, like I'm gonna stop saying this. Again, he's really close to the decent starter. Maybe with the Bengals, I should just push them down, push them up a tier, so you would kind of see what I mean. That I really have these guys close. And then you have your rock solid, exceptional, one of the best slot wide receivers, slot corners in Mike Hilton. He just had another exceptional year, and he is a top 5 on his position in the league. So yeah, DJ Turner might look like a potential weak link, and in terms of depth, they are thinking, or there's an idea that Dex Hill could play more of a corner than a safety. The depth is not necessarily here, but this should be still a really good room. That is not necessarily like a super huge asset, but gets definitely the job done and provides you with nice enough upside for what you need to do in the future, because you need some of the position to be occupied by guys on rookie contracts. So it just makes sense that you lose expensive veteran in Chidobe Awuzie to replace him with Ken Taylor-Britt that already was playing on his level, and you give even more chances to DJ Turner as he showed to be worth that opportunity. So that's where I really like the continuational approach towards the roster management that the Bengals are doing. With that being said, it's and I really said it about a lot of players, so I might understand if you would be like, well, you just graded them way too positively in terms of the group. Great for the group, and now it's just like figuring out through the process how to cover for it. No, it's when you are building roster this way, it's going to be natural that you are having really players that have kind of really carved their role for each and every single season. And for example, I think the best example for that is Jordan Battle, because in a sample size of last year, he played as an important starter. He was that good out there. And I do most likely predict that he is going to continue into the trajectory, but I cannot grade him as important starter because I'm missing that sample size. But in terms of his current ability, I would put it as a most likely scenario that he plays at least like a good starter. But to be certain, I just am not. So that's where this grades for guys that I don't have a sample size. I will tell you, well, that's it. But there is just a huge leap that they can make, like within the first couple of weeks, because that's what I saw on tape with them last year. I hope that makes sense. That's really how I come up with, like, first individual grades, and second the grades overall, trying to rank them as their current ability, but with guys that played better than their grade suggest, I will push the overall grade slightly more. Sorry, that was a bit exhausting. I hope it made sense for you and kind of explained why, despite this group doesn't look as favorably, I really grade them out quite highly. Overall, where the Bengals are. So in terms of floor, I cannot imagine them having a losing season. I mean, they almost didn't have it with Jake Browning. And... or did they? Okay, give me a couple of seconds because I'm not sure if they had... Were they 8 and 9, right? Oh, come on. No, they actually went 9 and 8. Okay, I was not sure about 8 and 9 or 9 and 8, so sorry about that. So they didn't have a losing record last year. Can I imagine that to happen if I think the roster is like not worse and Joe Burrow is back? No. So I would say their floor is 9 wins. Their ceiling is about 12 because that division is not. So I will not say that there is they are like a 13-win team, but they definitely have a good chance to win this division and absolutely make a noise in the playoffs. I think they are justifiably one of the biggest Super Bowl contenders, though I think they are about 6 or 7 in terms of like a Super Bowl odds, which feels really well priced. So, and like when we talk about their road to Super Bowl and where they are in that, I don't think I have to actually rank teams that have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes. There is a Super Bowl for them in their future. They are doing a really good job to prolong those windows to the best of their abilities. I would say that even above the Bills, despite this might be their down year. So as long as you have either of these 4 guys, the Super Bowl is kind of always a possibility for you. And it's just a matter of when we have 5% chance rather than when we have 10% chance. Or in case of Chiefs, it's more 10% or 15% because they are kind of doing it better. They have the best staff, they have the best of the bunch. But for Bengals, Bills, and Ravens, it's kind of always, even with their down year, you cannot rule them out. And when they hit their kind of an up year in terms of their roster building, they will be a top 3 contender. Kind of bad thing for them is 2 of those teams are in the same division and all of them are in the same conference. So that's really, really kind of sad. But that's also why we, come January, have these exceptional battles of Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes versus Joe Burrow. And you are super excited about that, I think. So this is it for the Bengals. We start with really good team this second half of season 24 preview, and I'm excited to see Joe Burrow back. With that being said, thank you very much for listening. See you with the next one. Bye bye.